I was talking with a friend the other day. He looked tired. He had put on some weight. And when I asked him what was going on, he said, man, I've just been so stressed. He's like, I've been working on my business. It didn't go as I expected. Now I had to go get a job. Now I'm full time with that. I'm barely making ends meet. I've got a baby. I've got a toddler. I don't have any more time. He's like, I just don't know how I'm going to get ahead. It feels like there's no way out. And you probably felt that way too. That suffocating stress that convinces you that life is never going to change. But here's what I want you to hear. By the end of this episode, you're going to see stress in a way you've never seen it before. You'll understand exactly why it shows up, why it keeps us stuck, and more importantly, how to break free from it in a single moment. Because stress isn't actually caused by your circumstances or situation. And when you understand the real source of stress, you'll discover how to dissolve it and move back into power no matter what's happening around you. So, let's get into it. Hey guys, we've all been there. It is the stress. That's where my buddy was a week ago when I saw him. And stress has become just so normalized in our life. We act like it's a thing that we just must entertain, but we do not have to. My friend is not lazy. He is not unmotivated. He is literally doing everything he can to change his situation and circumstance. But it's like the more he tries, the more trapped he feels. And that's the thing about stress. It's not just busyness. It's that feeling of pressure with no way out. If you really look at what stress is, it's this idea that things are not going to change, or worse, they might actually get worse, right? It's like whether you're looking at your finances, it's like, I'm never going to get out of debt. You're looking at your health, it's like, I'm never going to be well again. I'm never going to get rid of the pain. Relationships, I'm never going to find anybody, or this relationship is always going to be like this. The truth of the matter is that stress fundamentally, even though it shows up in a variety of different ways, is always the same thing. It is this feeling that we are not going to be able to change the situation in the way that we want to change it. And what happens over time is as your nervous system becomes acclimated to this, because there are so many daily stressors, stress becomes the baseline. And stress is one of the leading causes of us being sick. I would say it's the number one cause of living in financial insecurity. Stress is what cripples us. It takes away our creative capacity, our intuition, our connection with a higher power, our connection with others. And it gets to a place, and I'm speaking from real experience here, where I was literally waking up stressed every single day before anything ever happened. Now, I'm going to tell you how I got out of it, but it's important to understand that the stress is real. But it's not caused by the job. It's not caused by the toddler. It's not caused by the bills. It's actually caused by something else. And this is where we start to turn the corner. This is where, when you understand this, you can actually start to take back your personal power. Stress is a byproduct of really one thing and one thing only, which is thought. It is your thinking. I just did a recent episode around this where I talked about this truth bomb that I discovered while I was studying in an ashram in India for a month, which is that all suffering is a byproduct of one thing and one thing only, which is your own thinking. The stress is certainly a form of suffering, so the only thing that causes stress is thought. Now think about it for a minute. If stress were created by the situations, and I know we blame these things, we're like, I'm so stressed because of that thing. But if stress was created by the thing, then everyone experiencing the same thing would be stressed the same, right? But they're not. Some people thrive no matter what conditions or circumstances they're in. And other people experience stress no matter what circumstances or situations they're in. But stress, fundamentally, is believing a thought that contradicts what you want, right? There's something that you want. You want to have more financial abundance. You want to start your own business. You want to no longer have anxiety. You want to have a healthier body, whatever it looks like. You want to have more influence in the world. But there's a thought that you have that contradicts that desire, and the byproduct of that is stress. So there are all kinds of stressful thoughts that we have. I'll tell you some of my most common ones. I still have them today. It's not like they go away. I just work with it at a much more effective level. But I used to have thoughts like I don't have enough time. There's all these things that I need to do, but I don't have enough time. So that would create stress for me. I'll never figure this out, right? A lot of times I would start something new, in particular in my business. It wouldn't go the way that I expected it to. And I just have this thought, which was, I'm never going to figure it out. Stress. Another thought I would have a lot is like, if I don't solve this now, it's going to be a big problem. There were these thoughts of urgency that would create stress for me. Of course, looking back on my life, I could see most of the time it wasn't actually that urgent. And if I just left it alone, the thing resolved on its own or a solution showed up. But this is the conversation that's happening with our inner dialogue. And the thought feels very rational. And here's why. Because it matches what seem to be the facts. It matches what you observe. You know, my friend says look, I'm stressed because I feel like I'm never going to get ahead because I've got to take this job in order to make ends meet, to pay for my family, and therefore I don't have time to start my business, which I believe is the way that I could actually become financially prosperous and abundant. So it's stress, right? The thought feels rational because it matches the situation that my friend seems to be experiencing. But one of the interesting things here is it's not necessarily true. And we're going to be talking about how you can hack reality. Einstein has this great quote where he says, reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. So your current life has some facts in it. And when you buy into those as the absolute truth, which they are not, and they are not in alignment with the change or the outcome that you want, the byproduct of that is stress. But here's what's really cool. And I had to discover this the hard way. I mean, I discovered this by having a midlife crisis way before my midlife at the age of 33, realizing I was a drug addict, an alcoholic, a sex addict, having a second midlife crisis in my mid-40s as I was trying to figure out how to do this that I'm doing here, like get my mission out there and live a purpose-driven life. I learned the hard way. But what I learned, and not only through my own experience, but I mean, we've got a coaching company now. We've had over 10,000 coaching conversations with people just like you, is that your nervous system is like a compass. And the stress is a signal. It's a signal of something very, very important. And the signal is that you are entertaining a thought that is not true. Okay? You're entertaining a thought that is not true. You're buying into a false story based on the current facts of your reality, but your nervous system is like, you know those lie detector tests? They like wire somebody up, they ask them a question, they tell a lie, and it goes, eh. Stress is an inner eh. That's what it is. Okay, and so that means we can actually use stress as a map. So stick with me here. It is a map. All human beings function in a specific way. We're going to talk a little bit about the human being operating system. All human beings have two different states of being that they operate in. Now, I've had other episodes dedicated to this, but it's really relevant to the stress conversation, and you frankly cannot hear this enough times. There are two states of being that you operate in. One state of being is what we would call a powerful state. Those are states of being that feel good. Joy, curiosity, excitement, calm, peace, connection. Right? These are states that feel good. They are states that activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and the relaxation. Powerful states of being. And then there are primal states of being. These are states of being that don't feel good. States like stress, anxiety, fear, overwhelm, anger. This is when your sympathetic nervous system is activated, the fight, flight, or freeze. Okay? So you're always in one state of being or the other. You're either in a powerful state or a primal state, and you're never in two states of being at the same time. I just want you to notice right now, before you started listening to this episode, do you think you were in a powerful state or a primal state? If you're following along on YouTube, you can drop it in the comments. If you're listening on the audio platforms, just acknowledge it. You're always in one of these two states of being, and you're never in both states of being at the same time. It's like light switch on, light switch off. Powerful state or primal state. Now, what's important to understand, of course, stress is a primal state, right? Stress is the activation of your sympathetic nervous system when you're in fight, flight, or freeze. But what's also important to understand is that which state of being you're in is determined not by the experience or the situation that you're in. It is determined by your thoughts. It's determined by the meaning that you're giving the experience. In this case, my friend was giving a meaning to the experience of his life, which was nothing's going to change. That's usually what stress is, right? I don't have enough time in order to start my business and eventually create financial freedom for me because I got to do this job that I don't really love, that's just barely paying the bills. And I've got this treading water feeling of stress. So it was his story or his belief about his current situation that was actually creating the stress, not the situation itself. So it's important to understand this. When you are in stress, 100% of the time it's due to a thought. Now, even deeper than that, what we discovered in the 10,000 coaching conversation experiment that we've had called This Business over the last 8 years is that 100% of the time someone was stressed. Not only was it caused by their thinking rather than the situation, but as we worked with them to take a look at their thoughts and take a look at their beliefs, by the time we took a look at it together, 100% of the time, whatever it is that they were thinking that was creating the stress was not true. We have a really great tool called the Decision Matrix. If you've gone through our Mind Hack course, which if you haven't, you can check it out in the show notes. There's a link over to the website. We've got a great bundle right now with our other flagship program, the Whole Human Framework. We teach a tool called the Decision Matrix. And what was so interesting is after we worked with our clients, they actually told us, hey, that thing I was thinking before that was causing stress, it wasn't true. I can actually see that I was in an altered state, that I was perceiving reality in a limited way that I do not believe is true now that I've gone through this decision matrix process. And that's when we realized not only is stress caused by your own thinking, 100% of the time, the quality of the thinking is that it's not true. I just want you to look at this for yourself for a minute. Think about something that you're stressed about in your life. I hate doing this to you, but it's a worthwhile exercise. What is it you're stressed out about, right? Stressed out that, you're in some relationship friction, stressed out that you can't get it all done, stressed out that you don't have as much money as you would like. You look at your bank account and you're like, geez, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my bills. And I want you to just notice that the amount of money in your bank account is not what's creating the stress, it's the thoughts, right? The friction in your relationship is not what's creating the stress, it's the belief that it's never going to change. All relationships have friction. Your stress is caused by believing it's never going to change. In fact, stress is fundamentally associated with believing that whatever your situation is, health challenge, relationship challenge, spiritual challenge, business challenge, that your situation is not going to change. Now, let's take a look at my friend. The facts say he has no time. But in truth, time has nothing to do with it, right? There are an infinite number of ways that he could get out of his situation. He could be exposed to a new job opportunity. That job opportunity could actually pay him more for less time, which would give him an opportunity to launch his side hustle. There are an infinite number of ways that he could get out of his situation. But as long as he is in a primal state, he's locked into tunnel vision. Because in a primal state, you're operating more or less like an animal, right? It's like fight, flight, or freeze. In a powerful state, which is when your thoughts are in alignment with what's possible, that's where intuition is, that's where creativity is, that's where you manufacture coincidence and synchronicity, that's where solutions are. Right, from a powerful state. Well, what determines whether you're in a powerful state or primal state is your own thinking. And 100% of the time when you're thinking something that doesn't feel good, it's not true. Now, the decision matrix tool that I told you about, which is just such a badass tool, it is so simple and it is so effective. I have a few other episodes where I've walked people through it on this show, is really simple. It's this idea of identify the story you're telling, the limiting belief, like I don't have enough time. And then make a new powerful decision that is the opposite of the limiting belief, like I have all the time in the world. Time will work itself out, right? If I feel like I have to get things done today and I don't have time, then maybe I don't need to get those things done and they'll get taken care of tomorrow, right? Limiting belief, new empowered decision, and what evidence do you have for the fact that the new decision is true, right? I'm never going to be able to get out of my financial situation. All right, well, that feels crappy. So that's not true. What's the opposite? I am going to be able to get out of my financial situation. I'm already on my way of transforming my financial situation. Okay, cool. That's step 2, the new decision. Step 3 is, what evidence do you have for the fact that this is true? And as you are willing to wait for the answer to that question, you'll actually start to activate old memories that you have that support the idea that you're actually going to get out of your current situation and create the change that you want. Because the evidence is there, but it hasn't been convenient to this lie that you've been telling yourself that nothing's going to change. This was a massive breakthrough for me, that I didn't actually need to figure out how to change my situation. I had to start by making a new decision. That the way out isn't about working harder or having more time or having more money. It's about thinking or deciding differently. There's a game-changing book that I read, I'll put it in my top 5, called The Power of Decision by the Reverend Raymond Charles Barker. And when I first started understanding that beliefs were just decisions and that if I made a new decision, my reality started to change, I was like, who else is talking about this? And so I did a little Google search. I was like, man, this guy wrote a book in I think it was the 60s called The Power of Decision. And he says, look, most people only decide based on their current circumstances, which guarantees that those circumstances continue. But you as a human being are a powerful creator with this extraordinary brain. And so you have the capacity to change your thoughts. And you do that by making a new decision, not a decision to do, like a decision to make more money, but a decision about things, a decision about time, a decision about life, a decision about money. hey, yeah, right now I'm in this situation and I don't really know how and I don't know when, but I'm deciding that I'm going to do something I'm really passionate about that's going to provide tremendous financial prosperity and abundance for my family and allow me to spend time with my kids and my wife. That's a powerful decision. Hey, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know my body has the capacity to heal. I know that I've been very stressed out about my health condition, that probably that stress is what's predominantly keeping me trapped in my chronic health condition. But I'm making a new decision that I don't know how, but I don't know when, but I choose to be healthy, that my body has the capacity to recover itself. And whether that happens on its own or whether that happens through me finding a new practitioner, a new technique, it's not really important to me and it's not really up to me. I just know that I choose health. That's a decision about you and your body. So as you start to transform the inner affirmations and incantations that you've been saying over and over again that are a reaction to the life or the situation that you don't like, as you're willing to realize, well, that's just a belief, that's just a story. It happens to match up with what has been, but I can make a decision around what will be. Man, reality starts to respond. So a real decision is not wishful thinking. It is not hope. In fact, just in the word decide, decidere, the Latin of it means to cut off all else. You're cutting off all of the evidence that has existed in your life up until now. You're cutting off all of the stories. You're cutting off all of the reasons, and you're choosing this new direction. And that is a shift in your identity, because the moment you make a new decision about your health, you're no longer a sick person, you're a healthy person. The moment you make a new decision about your wealth, you're no longer a broke person, you're an abundant person. The moment you make a decision about, having a business or starting a business, even if you don't know what it is, but knowing that you're going to be self-employed, doing something you're passionate about that creates prosperity and abundance for yourself, you're no longer employed. You're an entrepreneur. It's an immediate shift in identity. Now we have to wait for reality to catch up, and you will take some action and contribute to that shift in reality. But the decision is a shift in an identity. It's also very important for you to understand that you don't need to know how. We're not talking about getting into the how yet. I told my wife after I had the conversation with my friend, I'm like, shit, man, it's so hard when you don't understand how the game of life works. All he needs to do is decide. But then you also have to be patient. You have to wait for the screen of reality to change. The great mystic Neville Goddard talked about the 5-sense screen of space. He talked about reality as like a movie screen that your thoughts are projecting upon. Well, the reality you have is based on the thoughts that you've been having. So if you're going to choose some new thoughts and make some new decisions, there might be a delay before reality catches up. And so in that gap, as reality is still reflecting your old decisions and your old beliefs, it's important that you don't undecide. It's important that you don't go, see, I have evidence. I have evidence for my, financial insecurity. I have evidence for my health problems. I have evidence. Yes, I know. But what we're anticipating this new evidence to show up that supports the new decision. So you don't need to know how, but you choose abundance. You don't need to know how, but you choose freedom. You decide for health. And from that place, Raymond Charles Barker says 3 really extraordinary things happen. Number 1, you start to have new thoughts and ideas. Did you know that your thoughts and ideas do not reside in your head? Did you know that? Science has not been able to establish that thoughts actually exist in your head. But theorists, consciousness theorists, have a much more logical explanation. It's a larger conversation. Maybe I'll break it down in another episode. If you want me to, you can comment in the comments below. Thoughts exist in the field. Thoughts exist in what's called the ether or the akasha or the 4th dimension or the quantum field. So you have access to all kinds of thoughts and ideas. You have access to infinite knowledge. Whenever you have a thought, what you're doing is you're tuning into the information in the field. And it sounds like it's coming from your head, so we think it's in our brain, but it's not. Your brain is like a receiver. It's an electrical device that is tuning into, based on frequency, information that exists in the field. So the moment you make a new decision, you start to have different thoughts and ideas. Why? Because your identity has shifted. You're now a financially prosperous person that's just in the process of materializing that prosperity. You're no longer broke, so you have abundant and prosperous thoughts, unless you pay attention to your current reality, which is reflecting your old habit of thought. So Neville Goddard says you have to stay loyal to your new decision. But the moment you make a new decision, you start to tune into different thoughts and ideas. Number 2, you start to perceive reality differently. If you believe that there's no good men or women left out there, and you're wanting to find a soulmate, but you have this contradictory thought which is, of course, creating stress for you because it's not in alignment with what you want, and you believe, therefore, things will never change. If you believe that there are no good ones left, guess what you're going to notice? All the crappy people out there. And guess what will be invisible to you? The ones who are great. The ones for you. It's really amazing when we're working with people on their mindset and they shift their beliefs around who could be out there for them. Within a very short period of time, they're like, you're not going to believe it. I found my soulmate. And you know what? It was somebody I already knew. We work with entrepreneurs. They say, you're not going to believe it. I enrolled a new high-paying client. You know what? It was somebody who was already in my network. Yes, but they were invisible because what you perceive and what you pay attention to is in alignment with what it is that you believe or you've decided. So if you believe that nobody's going to pay you the kind of high prices that you charge for your business, or they won't find value in what you offer, then you're going to not notice anybody who might actually become your next high-paying client. There's a part of the brain, it's called the reticular activating system. I've talked about this on other episodes. It's that part of your brain that notices the car that you bought and everybody else seems to be driving it now, right? It's where you notice the outfits that other people are wearing because they're the outfit that you now own. Neuroscience tells us that 88% of what you experience on a day-to-day basis, you don't pay attention to. It goes into this big unconscious data bank. What you pay attention to is the 12% of information that aligns with what you believe and what you've decided. So when you make a new decision that you will be successful, that you don't know how, but this marketing campaign will perform, that you will attract the right employees, over a short period of time, you start to notice things and take action around things that are in alignment with producing that result. Number one, you think differently. Number two, you perceive differently. Number three, you are a vibrational creature. So your nervous system and your brain are always flaring off frequency, electrical activity. And that is going out into the field of information and the field of consciousness. And people are picking up on it. And you're picking up on what they're vibing. And it starts to create coincidences and synchronicities that fulfill on whatever it is that you believe. Because if you believe that you never get ahead, that's when you get the bill in the mail that you didn't expect. If you believe that you live a financial and prosperous and an abundant life, that's how money-making opportunities show up miraculously. These aren't miracles. These are mathematical outputs based on an input, which is what is it that you've decided? Or what is it that you believe, right? I believe that beliefs are decisions. It's one of the most powerful distinctions that I learned in my own journey. Because I didn't know what to do with my limiting beliefs. I was like stuck on them. How do you shift a limiting belief? Where is a limiting belief? How do you even get a hold of a limiting belief? It seems like you're trying to wrestle a cloud, right? But when you understand that beliefs are decisions, you know how to make new decisions. And the beautiful thing is that as your reality starts to change, life responds to the new decision. You know, life has been responding to the stress by creating more stressful circumstances and situations for you. But the moment you make a new decision, life starts to respond to it. So my friend, for example, he's stuck in the how and he's stuck in the impossibility. But if he would just say, I know how this works. I know that reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. I know that when I make a new decision, all of a sudden my reality starts to change. It's backed by neuroscience. It's backed by behavioral psychology. It's backed by metaphysics on every level. This is justified. I'm going to start making some new decisions about who I am, about my financial abundance, about my time, about my purpose, about my passion, about the work that I do, about my family. I'm going to create a new identity through these decisions, and I'm going to hold faithful as my old reality continues to reflect back to me. I will not be afraid of it, but I will hold the line as my reality reorients itself. Then there isn't anything that he can't create. Now, how will it occur? That's up to an infinite intelligence. What thoughts and ideas will he have? That's up to an infinite intelligence. Is he called to take action upon those things that he's inspired to do? Absolutely. I'm not saying he just sits back and expects financial abundance and ease and flow in his life by not taking action. You do take some action, but life will set him up with a path, and then he follows the path. So we've all experienced these kinds of synchronicities. You know, we've been in a situation we desperately needed a resource and it showed up. In fact, that's the beautiful thing about life. Life's never let us down. Now, life has never let us down. How do we know? Because we're still here. It may not have gone exactly as we had planned, but if we really look at it, life gives us what we believe, and oftentimes we believe in fear. And so fear becomes the result. And we learn from that experience, wow, look how powerful I am. I was so afraid. I created the situation and circumstance that I didn't actually want. But the system is really simple. And when you can train your mind and train yourself to the system, you can have a powerful living experience. Jesus had this quote where he said, "My yoke is easy, my burden is light." I think that's what he was saying. I think he was saying, hey, the way it works is not complicated, and it can be very easy for you if you understand how to play the game of life properly. The challenge, of course, is that most of us were indoctrinated into believing all these stories, right? Money was hard to make. We're not good enough. Children should be seen and not heard. You can't trust people. All this stuff that created a distorted reality for us with these shadows that are cast upon our life that create stress and anxiety for us. But the stress, make no mistake, is self-induced. It's anytime you're entertaining a thought which is in contradiction to what you actually want. And if you understand that and you can take a step back and take a look at what you're thinking, knowing that if it doesn't feel good, it's not true, then you can say, okay, what do I choose to be true? What do I decide is true for me? And it's really simple. It's always 100% the opposite of the limiting belief. That's the beauty of the decision matrix. Identify the thought or the limiting belief that's creating stress for you. Know that beliefs are decisions. Know that you can just make a new decision, make an opposite decision, and then start asking yourself, what evidence do I have for the fact that this is actually true, right? That I can have financial freedom, that I can have a career or a job that I love, that I'm not trapped, that I am free, even if the facts don't support it. And you hold the decision and you watch how life rearranges around it. I had a process, I was waking up every single day, stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed. If you're one of my people, again, if you're following along on YouTube, you can say, hey, I relate. But it was every day because I'd conditioned my nervous system to be stressed, even when there was nothing stressful going on. And the way I broke that pattern was I woke up every single morning and I did this process that I called a morning dump. I would literally dump out all of the inner dialogue and the inner chats and the fears and the worries and the stresses on a column of a piece of paper. I actually divided the piece of paper into 3 columns. In the left column, I wrote out all the stuff that was stressing me out. And then I worked a decision matrix. I took every single one of those line items, and in the second column, in the middle column, I'd come up with a new decision. And then in the third column, I'd say, well, what evidence do I have for the fact that this new decision is true? And I'd ask myself that question a couple of times until it felt like, yeah, man, I'd look at that limiting belief, I'd look at that stressful thought, and it doesn't even seem true anymore because I had reestablished what I believed through the evidence I had of the new decision. And I'd get maybe through 3 or 4 of them, and at that point in time, I felt better. I moved from a primal state into a powerful state, boom, went back out into my day, and it was more productive. You stack those days on top of each other, you change your life. By the way, the next morning, the same thing would happen to me. Does that mean I'm broken? No. It just means I'm working on a new habit. I'm building a new nervous system. So I'd dump it out again. Sometimes I'd dump the same thing every single day, and I'd rework a decision matrix. I'd make a new powerful decision. I'd find the evidence for the fact that was true. I'd move into a powerful state. I'd go back into my day. You know what? Sometimes I didn't make it till lunch. I'd move back into a primal state. But this is how you get stronger. This is how you build a new nervous system. This is how you change your mind. And when you change your mind, you change your life, because reality is just a reflection of your inner dialogue. So stress, not an enemy. It's a sign. Not comfortable. I get it. You've got tools now to work with it, and just know that we all get stressed. But stress is an agreement with an unintelligent thought, a thought that's not true, that is a limiting thought that says basically the circumstance or situation is not going to change. Use that as an opportunity to inquire within. Look at what it is you're thinking. Know that what you discover is a belief, and know that you have an ability to respond to that limiting belief by making a new decision, and reinforce it by asking yourself, what evidence do I have for the fact that this new decision is true? Do that over a short period of time. I guarantee you the way you think will change and your life will change. No matter what circumstance you're in, you will find yourself transitioning out of it, not through hustle or grind, not because you figured it out or had a perfect plan, but because life started to leave you clues as it started to rearrange itself based on your new habit of thought. So listen, I hope you love this episode as much as I love sharing it with you. Couple of things I'd ask. Number 1, if you have not yet, subscribe to the channel. Number 2, if you love this episode, do me a favor, share it with somebody you love. And number 3, if you haven't yet gotten into our work, jump on over to davidbear.com. Get into our Mind Hack course. Get into our Whole Human Framework program. Amazing tools for transforming the way you think and re-engineering your reality. I love you so much. Thank you for being on this journey with me, and I will see you in the next episode.